Get this old tradesman out of my house. I don't want him near my children with his health problems. My daughter-in-law Ashley screamed at my son that night. He agreed. In the morning, Nathan said to me, "Dad, you'd better leave." I silently packed my suitcase and left their house forever. But I took not only my belongings with me, but also $7.8 million. My name is Gerald Reynolds. I'm 59 years old, and I spent the last 2.5 years testing whether my family loved me or my money. The answer nearly destroyed them. The diagnosis folder sat on my passenger seat as I drove home from Dr. Patterson's office. Type 2 diabetes and mild hypertension. Not a death sentence, just daily medication and dietary changes. At 59, after building Reynolds Climate Solutions from nothing and selling it for $5.8 million, I should have been relieved. But heading to Nathan's house in Carrollwood, the house I'd helped buy with $65,000 they thought was a gift, I knew the real test was just beginning. For 2.5 years, I'd lived with my son Nathan and his wife Ashley. They thought I'd lost everything when I sold my HVAC company that I'd downsized from necessity. Every month I handed Nathan $2,200 in cash for household expenses. They accepted it like rent from a boarder, which I suppose I was. But what they didn't know was that those monthly payments weren't survival money. They were my test. A $66,000 experiment over 30 months to see if their gratitude was real or rehearsed. I'd built Reynolds Climate Solutions with my bare hands, starting in 1995 with a used pickup truck and borrowed tools. Commercial HVAC systems, specializing in refrigeration for restaurants and grocery stores across Central Florida. When Nathan's mother died of cancer when he was 12, I raised him alone while building that business. Paid for his college, his wedding, every advantage a father could give. I thought I'd raised a son who understood loyalty, respect, hard work. I was about to find out. I pulled into the driveway beside Ashley's white Range Rover. The house looked perfect in the fading April light, all updated kitchen, professional landscaping, and expensive upgrades. My $65,000 down payment had made this possible, though they had no idea what I could still do for them if they proved worthy. Inside, my granddaughter Sophia, 9 years old with her mother's sharp features, was doing homework at the kitchen table. My grandson Tyler, 7, was building something elaborate with Legos on the living room floor. "Grandpa!" Tyler jumped up and hugged my legs. I caught him, feeling that familiar ache in my lower back. "Hey there, engineer. What are you building? A workshop like yours used to be," he said proudly. "With all the tools and everything." The words stung more than I expected. Ashley had forbidden me from teaching the kids any trade skills, said it was beneath their station, and she didn't want them getting ideas about manual labor careers, as if the manual labor that paid for their house was something shameful. Nathan emerged from his home office, wearing his weekend casual and polo shirt and khakis that probably cost more than my first pair of work boots. At 36, he'd inherited my height and build, but none of my calloused hands or practical mindset. IT systems analyst, made decent money at $78,000 a year, spent more than he made, always had, even as a kid. "Hey, Dad, how was the doctor?" His voice carried that careful tone people use when they're asking about something they hope isn't serious. I held up the folder. "Got the results. Let's talk after dinner." His expression flickered. Concern, maybe, or just polite obligation. Hard to tell lately. Ashley appeared from the kitchen, blonde hair pulled back in a perfect ponytail, yoga clothes that probably cost more than most people's monthly grocery budget. At 33, she maintained herself like a lifestyle brand, which essentially she was. 52,000 Instagram followers hanging on her every wellness journey post and carefully curated family photos that never included the old man living in their converted den. She glanced at the medical folder, then at me, then away. "Dinner's ready," she announced. "Kids, wash your hands." We sat around their dining table, the one I'd helped pay for during their kitchen renovation emergency last year. Grilled salmon, quinoa salad, steamed vegetables arranged like a magazine photo. Ashley's cooking was Instagram perfect and about as warm as her personality. "So," Nathan said, cutting his fish into identical pieces with surgical precision. "The doctor?" I'd rehearsed this moment, watching their faces. Type 2 diabetes and mild hypertension. Sounds scary, but it's manageable with medication and lifestyle changes. Doc was actually optimistic. Said with proper management, it shouldn't significantly impact my life expectancy. Ashley's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Her eyes darted to Nathan, just for a second, but I caught it. A look that said, "We need to talk about this later." "That's concerning, Gerald," she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "You'll need to be very careful about medical emergencies. What if your blood sugar drops? What if you have a heart episode?" Nathan nodded along. "Yeah, Dad, that's tough. You'll really need to follow the doctor's orders exactly. No warmth, no genuine concern, just procedural sympathy, like commenting on someone else's bad weather forecast." I watched my son, the boy I'd raised alone, the man I'd sacrificed everything for, and saw a stranger wearing his face. Sophia looked up from her plate, her 9-year-old eyes wide with worry. "Are you going to be okay, Grandpa?" "I'm fine, sweetheart." I smiled at her, the first genuine emotion I'd felt since walking in. "Just means I need to take better care of myself. Maybe learn to cook healthy like your mom." Ashley's smile was razor thin. "Nathan, did you finish the Henderson project?" Just like that, subject changed. My health, my diagnosis, my future, dismissed faster than yesterday's news. Nathan launched into work details while Ashley nodded and engaged fully, asking follow-up questions, showing real interest in his spreadsheets and system updates. The contrast was deliberate and brutal. I ate my salmon and memorized every word, every dismissive gesture, every careful avoidance of eye contact. This was my family. This was what 2.5 years of monthly contributions had bought me. After dinner, I retreated to my room, the converted den that Ashley always introduced to guests as Gerald's space, with that particular tone that made it clear it was temporary. The smallest room in the house, barely fitting my bed, dresser, and the small desk where I kept my real secrets hidden behind winter coats and old photo albums. I opened the desk drawer where 12 identical envelopes sat in a neat row, one for each month I'd planned to stay. I'd prepared this month's contribution 3 days ago, 22 crisp $100 bills, same as always. The ritual had become automatic, meaningless. They expected it now like a utility payment. In the kitchen, Nathan was loading the dishwasher with mechanical precision. I approached, envelope in hand, this month's contribution. He took it without looking inside, without eye contact, just automatic acceptance. "Thanks, Dad." Not even pretending gratitude anymore. The envelope disappeared into his pocket like all the others, unexamined, unappreciated. Just another expected payment from the old man they were housing. I went back to my room and sat on the edge of the bed. Through these thin walls, I could hear them moving around, putting kids to bed, their evening routine of baths and bedtime stories. Normal family sounds that didn't include me. Then came the familiar pattern, their bedroom door closing, voices starting low, then rising as they forgot about sound traveling through cheap drywall. Something pulled me into the hallway that night, some instinct that this conversation mattered, that I needed to hear. Whatever came next, I opened my door quietly, stepped into the dim corridor where yellow light leaked under their bedroom door like a warning. "We need to talk about your father." Ashley's voice cut through the wall with surgical precision. I froze, hand gripping my doorknob, heart suddenly pounding in my chest. "I'm done, Nathan. Completely done with this situation. Ashley, keep your voice down. The kids might hear. The kids will be fine. It's your father I'm worried about. Get that old tradesman out of my house. I don't want him around my children with these health problems." The words hit like physical blows. Old tradesman. The contempt in her voice was pure poison. What if he has a diabetic emergency while babysitting? What if he has a heart episode and the kids find him unconscious? I won't have my children traumatized by some old man's health crisis. Ashley, he's my father. Where's he supposed to go? I don't care. A senior community, an assisted living place, anywhere but here. We gave him a place when he needed it. Now he needs to figure out his own situation. Her voice was gaining strength, feeding on its own cruelty. Besides, what if our friends find out we're housing some sick old HVAC worker? Do you know what that does to our image? I've worked too hard building my wellness brand to have it associated with this. I stood frozen in that hallway, absorbing the full scope of their betrayal. 2.5 years of playing the grateful guest, the down-on-his-luck father, the burden they'd graciously accepted. And this was their truth, finally surfacing. "He pays $2,200 a month," Nathan tried weakly. $2,200? Nathan, this house costs us $3,800 monthly in mortgage payments alone, not counting utilities, food, insurance, everything else. He's barely covering half his actual burden. And now he's sick? Now he'll need medical supervision, emergency interventions, possibly hospice care? No, absolutely not. I want him out. The silence that followed felt like falling through space. I waited for Nathan to defend me, to show some backbone, to channel the boy I'd raised after his mother's death. The boy I'd taught to change oil and fix leaky faucets. The boy who used to say he wanted to grow up and work with his dad. Where am I supposed to tell him to go? Nathan's voice was small, defeated. Tell him anything. Tell him we need space for Sophia's piano lessons. Tell him it's better for his health to have independence. Tell him we found a nice senior community. I don't care what story you use. Just get him out of my house. My house. Not our house. My house. 1 week, Nathan. I want him gone in 1 week, or I'm taking the kids and staying at my sister's until you figure out your priorities. The ultimatum hung in the air like a blade. I waited, hoping against hope that my son would find some vestige of the man I'd tried to raise. Okay. The word came out barely above a whisper. Okay, I'll tell him tomorrow. Thank you. And Nathan? Make it clear this isn't negotiable. I'm not running a nursing home for broke old men. I stepped backward into my room, closed the door with infinite care. My hands were shaking as I released the knob. I stood in complete darkness, didn't turn on the light, didn't move to the bed, just stood there absorbing the full weight of what I'd heard. Broke old men. My house. Get him out. 2.5 years ago, Nathan had called me with excitement in his voice. Dad, Ashley and I found this amazing house, but we're $20,000 short on the down payment. I hate to ask, but I'd written a check for $65,000 the next day, more than he'd asked for, wanting to ensure they got their dream home. Nathan's grateful hug, Ashley's tears of joy. Thank you, Dad. This means everything to us. I moved to my closet, pushed aside hanging shirts that smelled like the industrial detergent Ashley bought in bulk. On the top shelf sat a small fireproof lockbox, innocuous among old winter coats. Inside, private banking statements I'd kept hidden for 2.5 years, documents that told a very different story about Gerald Reynolds' financial situation. The most recent statement showed a balance that would have shocked them. $7,847,623. They thought I'd lost everything when I sold Reynolds Climate Solutions. They had no idea what I'd actually built, what I'd carefully invested, what I'd deliberately hidden while playing the role of modest retiree in need of family support. They had no idea that the old tradesman they wanted gone had more money than they'd see in several lifetimes. I sat on my bed in complete darkness and didn't sleep. Memories flooded back with crystal clarity. Paying for Nathan's college, $180,000 over 4 years because he needed the full experience at a private university. The investment property I'd helped him buy in his 20s when he was going to flip houses and build wealth, then helped him sell when he mismanaged it into near bankruptcy. The car loans I'd co-signed, the credit card debt I'd quietly paid off, the wedding that cost more than most people's annual salary because Ashley deserved a perfect day. 37 years of endless assists, bailouts, and support that apparently built nothing but entitlement. When light finally crept under my door, I'd processed the betrayal into something harder, clearer, more useful. I heard movement in the kitchen, breakfast sounds, coffee brewing, the morning routine that would soon include Nathan's rehearsed speech about why I needed to leave. I dressed carefully, splashed cold water on my face, and emerged to find Nathan making coffee with exaggerated concentration, his hands slightly trembling as he measured grounds. "Morning, Dad." He couldn't meet my eyes. "Morning." We stood in uncomfortable silence while his coffee brewed. Ashley swept through wearing designer workout clothes, grabbed her phone and protein shake, disappeared again without a word. The kids were still asleep. This was his moment. Nathan cleared his throat. "Dad, I've been thinking. Maybe it would be better for everyone, especially for your health, if you found your own place, your own space. More independence, less stress on everyone. Every word sounded rehearsed but delivered poorly, like a bad actor reading lines. We'd give you a week to make arrangements, help however we can with the transition. I looked at my son, really looked at him, saw what he'd become, a man shaped by the path of least resistance, married to a woman who'd consumed whatever backbone he might have possessed, a 36-year-old boy who'd never learned to stand up for what was right because someone else had always done the standing for him. I understand completely, Nathan. My voice came out cold, controlled. I'll begin making arrangements today. Something in my tone made him glance up sharply. Maybe he'd expected protest, guilt, pleading. Instead, he got acceptance that should have terrified him. I walked to my room, pulled my old travel suitcase from the closet, and began folding clothes. Each movement was deliberate, methodical. Through the thin walls, I heard Ashley's voice, bright with relief. He's actually packing? Good. I was worried he'd make this difficult. I continued folding, shirts and pants, everything I'd need for my new life. Around me, boxes I'd never fully unpacked in 2.5 years. I'd always known this arrangement might be temporary. I just needed to understand why it would end. My phone sat on the nightstand. I picked it up, opened my private banking app. The balance stared back at me, $7,847,623. I opened my real estate app, typed carefully, Tampa Luxury Homes, $400,000 to $500,000. The screen filled with properties, waterfront estates, modern homes with gourmet kitchens, renovated historical gems in prestigious neighborhoods. I scrolled through them, each listing more impressive than the house I'd helped them buy. For the first time since last night, a small, cold smile crossed my face. They wanted the sick old tradesman out of their house. They had no idea what house the old tradesman could afford. I called Dorothy Hamilton, my estate planning attorney. We'd worked together for 15 years since I first started making serious money and needed proper legal protection. Dorothy, it's Gerald Reynolds. I need approximately $450,000 transferred to my checking account by next Friday. No problem, Gerald. Her voice was professionally warm. Selling some investments? Buying a house? Fresh start. She didn't ask why, didn't pry. That's why I'd kept her all these years. I'll also need you to make another phone call, I continued. It's time my son learned a few things about his father's finances. The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds, long enough for Dorothy to understand this wasn't routine estate planning. I see. When would you like to meet? Tomorrow morning. 10 a.m., your office. And Dorothy? Make sure you have copies of everything. Investment portfolios, property deeds, business sale records. I want him to see it all. That afternoon, I met with Carol Stevens, a real estate agent in Westchase. She was professional, efficient, portfolio already assembled when we met at a coffee shop near Hyde Park. I've selected 8 properties matching your criteria, she said, spreading photos across the table. All in Westchase except this one in Palmyra. Slightly over budget but worth seeing. One caught my attention immediately. Modern design, white stone and glass, gated driveway, mature landscaping but not fussy. Listed at $425,000. This one, I tapped the photo. When can we see it? Tomorrow at 3 p.m. The sellers relocated to Atlanta for work. They're motivated sellers. Cash buyer. This could move very fast. The house was perfect. Built in 2018, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, open floor plan, updated kitchen, master suite on the main floor, and most importantly, a 2-car garage I could convert into a proper workshop. The yard was private, enclosed by tasteful fencing, quiet street in an established neighborhood. Mr. Reynolds, Carol said as we finished the tour, would you like time to consider? I'd like to make an offer today. Full asking price, cash, close in 1 week. Her professional mask slipped for just a moment. Pure shock flickered across her features. Today? Most buyers take time to... I'm not most buyers, I said gently. Let's write the offer. 5 days later, I held the keys to my Westchase home. 5 days from offer to ownership. Record time, Carol said, but that's what happens when you pay cash and skip all the financing delays. The moving truck arrived at Nathan's house exactly at 8 a.m. on day 6 of my week deadline. Professional crew handled everything efficiently. Nathan had left for work early, avoiding me. Ashley took the kids to school, then disappeared to her yoga class or book club or whatever wealthy wives do to avoid uncomfortable conversations. I did a final walkthrough of their house. Nathan and Ashley's bedroom, where I'd stood in the hallway listening to my fate being decided. The kids' rooms, toys scattered across floors, the childhood I'd miss watching unfold, the dining room where I'd revealed my diagnosis to faces that couldn't hide their inconvenience. I felt nothing. No sentimentality, no regret, just quiet satisfaction that the test was complete. In the kitchen, I placed my final note on the table where they'd find it at breakfast. Thank you for your hospitality these 2.5 years. I found new housing and will be out by noon today. Don't trouble yourselves about the old tradesman anymore. The envelope is this month's contribution. Dad. Beside it, I set the envelope containing $2,200, my final payment for the privilege of discovering who they really were. The drive to West Chase took 20 minutes through neighborhoods that reminded me why I'd chosen Florida 40 years ago. Trees, water, possibilities. My new house looked even better in the morning light. White stone gleaming, glass, windows reflecting sky. The gate responding to my remote. My gate, my driveway, my house. Within 2 hours, the movers had unloaded everything. I tipped them $500 cash, watched their eyebrows rise at the generosity. After they left, I stood in my new living room with high ceilings and natural light flooding through those floor-to-ceiling windows. My furniture looked small in here, but I'd acquire more. Time for that now. My phone buzzed around 4 p.m. Text from Nathan. Got your note. Hope you're settled okay. Take care of yourself. 9 words. Obligation fulfilled. I stared at the message, remembering the boy who'd once made me Father's Day cards in crayon, who'd cried when I taught him to ride a bike and he fell hard on his 3rd attempt. That boy was gone. Had been gone for years, probably. I didn't respond. 3 days later, Nathan sat in Dorothy Hamilton's office. I know because Dorothy called me afterward with a full report, her voice carrying that particular satisfaction lawyers get when delivering perfectly executed justice. She'd started professional, neutral. Mr. Reynolds, thank you for coming in. I'm updating your father's estate planning and he wanted you informed of certain assets. Nathan had looked confused. Assets? I mean, Dad sold his house years ago. He lived with us because he needed help. I don't understand what assets you're talking about. Dorothy slid the first document across her polished mahogany desk. Investment portfolio statement, my name at the top. The balance clear in bold print. $7,847,623. Your father owns an investment portfolio currently valued at approximately $7.8 million. Nathan stared at the paper. Dorothy said his face went blank, like a computer screen freezing mid-task. 7.8? I'm sorry, what? She showed him more. Property deed for the West Chase house, purchased for $425,000 cash. Bank statements. Tax records from selling Reynolds Climate Solutions for $5.8 million. Business growth records showing 35 employees and annual revenues exceeding $12 million before the sale. But he was living with us. Nathan's voice came out hoarse. He gave us money every month because he couldn't afford his own place. Your father mentioned those contributions. $2,200 monthly, correct? Yes, because he couldn't afford. Nathan's words died as the logic caught up. $2,200 from $7.8 million. Pennies from a fortune. Dorothy delivered the final blow with professional detachment. Mr. Reynolds sold his commercial HVAC business 5 years ago for $5.8 million. He invested wisely in index funds and municipal bonds. He has never needed financial assistance from anyone. Those monthly contributions were his choice, not his necessity. She told me Nathan sat motionless for a full minute, then started breathing fast, shallow gasps like someone had punched him in the stomach. Previously, Dorothy continued, you were designated as sole beneficiary of your father's estate. He wanted you to know he's reconsidering that arrangement entirely. Nathan left her office walking like a sleepwalker. Dorothy watched him from her 15th floor window as he sat in his sedan in the parking garage, phone pressed to his ear, visible distress even from that height. The call to Ashley, according to the frantic voicemails they left me later, went like this. Ashley, you need to sit down. Dad has $7.8 million. The lawyer just showed me everything. What? That's impossible. He lived in our house because he was broke. He was testing us, Ashley, all those years. The $2,200 a month, the gratitude, the careful budget talk, He could have bought our house with cash, could have bought 10 houses like ours. Silence. Then, oh God, Nathan, what did we do? What they did was call me 23 times in the next hour. I sat in my home office watching my phone light up with each desperate attempt and didn't answer. Text messages flooded in. Dad, please call me, we need to talk, I just met with Dorothy. I had no idea about your finances. Please let me explain. Gerald, the kids miss you. Please come for dinner. Dad, I'm sorry for everything, please just talk to me. I deleted each one without responding. But Dorothy had one more surprise for them. She called 3 days later about a document I'd almost forgotten, a promissory note Nathan had signed 2.5 years ago for the down payment. Gerald, when you gave them the $65,000 for their house, you had Nathan sign a formal loan agreement. With compound interest at 5% annually, the current balance is $78,000. Do you want to pursue collection? I'd protected myself even then, some part of me knowing this day might come. Send the demand letter. 90 days to pay in full. The certified letter arrived on a Tuesday. Nathan signed for it, saw Dorothy's law firm on the return address, and his hand started shaking before he opened the envelope. Inside, legal demand for $78,000 in 90 days, or face foreclosure proceedings on the house. They scrambled. Ashley's Instagram account, Wellness. With Ashley became a fire sale. Designer handbags, jewelry, her expensive camera equipment, all posted with desperate captions about decluttering for better energy. Her 52,000 followers watched the slow-motion collapse with fascination. The comments turned vicious as the story spread through Carrollwood social circles. Is this the girl who threw out her millionaire father-in-law? Karma is real, hun. Some people don't deserve nice things. She lost 15,000 followers in 2 weeks. Brand partnership offers dried up overnight. The wellness influencer who'd built her image on gratitude and family values was exposed as a fraud. Nathan faced consequences at work, too. A coworker's wife was in Ashley's book club. The story spread through his office like wildfire. His manager called him in for a performance discussion after he missed 3 deadlines while dealing with the crisis. After 60 days, they'd scraped together $45,000. Sold Ashley's car, downgraded to a used Honda, maxed out credit cards. Borrowed money from Ashley's parents. It wasn't enough. On day 89, Nathan called me directly. I answered this time. Dad, we can't pay it all. We're going to lose the house. His voice was hollow, defeated. I felt no satisfaction in it, just tired acceptance of what had always been inevitable. Maybe you should have thought about consequences before calling me a burden. We've learned our lesson. Please, the kids, meet me at Dorothy's office tomorrow. I have terms. The next day, they sat across from Dorothy's desk looking like refugees from their own life. I slid a typed document toward them. My terms. Non-negotiable. You pay me the $45,000 you've collected. Consider it tuition for the lesson you needed to learn. I forgive the remaining $33,000. You attend family therapy for 6 months minimum. My will stays changed. Bulk of my estate goes to charity and a trust fund for Sophia and Tyler accessible when they turn 25. You receive $75,000 total after my death, not each total. And you publicly acknowledge your mistakes to our family. Nathan read it twice. Ashley's hands trembled as she signed. We accept, she whispered. But the most important change came 3 months later. I started meeting Sophia and Tyler every Saturday at a coffee shop near their school. Supervised visits, public location, my terms. Tyler asked the question that mattered most. Grandpa, are we allowed to love you again? I knelt to his level, saw my son's eyes in his face, but also something better. Innocence that could still be protected. You never stopped being allowed to love me, buddy. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes and need time to fix them. Today, I'm 60 years old. I live in my West Chase home, teach HVAC basics to kids at the local trade school, and see my grandchildren every weekend. Nathan and Ashley are different people now. Humbled, grateful, careful with their words. We'll never be close again, but we can be family. The trust fund is set up, $1.2 million, for each grandchild when they turn 25. Nathan and Ashley signed papers acknowledging they have no access to those funds. Every morning I wake up in my house, the one I bought with my own money. I remember exactly who I am. Not the burden they wanted gone, but the man who built something from nothing and chose justice over destruction. The old tradesman they threw away turned out to be worth more than they could ever repay, and that lesson will follow them for the rest of their lives. If you're watching this and wondering about your own family relationships, remember, respect isn't something you inherit. It's something you earn every single day, regardless of age or bank account. The moment you start measuring someone's worth by their usefulness to you, instead of their place in your heart, you've already lost the most valuable thing they could give you: their love.